The latest batch of documents were at the president's Wilmington house. He had hundreds of visitors to that house, but there was no log. We don't know who they were. Christian Whiton is here. We don't know who these people were or are, and they had access, presumably, to the files found in the Wilmington house. This can't go on. We've got to know who these folks are.
Right, and it'd be an interesting question whether that information can be produced. After all, Vice President Biden left office as vice president. You have some security, you have some accountability, but it's not the level of scrutiny and control that the Secret Service would apply to a former president. So, Biden says that he kept this in his garage with his Corvette. I mean, that would be like keeping it in your own garage. Do you keep a log of people who go in there? Can you have a chain of accountability? I think you actually have to start with the assumption that anything in this material has probably been leaked. You don't know that for sure, but that would have to be the presumption you would think over 6 years of inactivity, inattention, a lack of proper security.
Christian, I see a China connection. Maybe I'm going too far here, but $30 million from anonymous Chinese donors to the Penn Data Center. Hunter Biden and all his problems with China, he had access to the garage and to the house. Do you think there is a China connection here? Is it valid for me to put it out?
Definitely. I mean, the Biden family has unanswered questions about the amount of influence that China has over the big guy, as President Biden was referred to in some correspondence found on Hunter Biden's laptop. The amount of money that has popped into the center, as you said, and this very well fits the pattern of Chinese influence operations in political warfare. It's not just trying to cultivate high-value spies that are implanted in the U.S. government and have access to classified information the way the Soviets and the Russians do. It's more of throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, including influencing people through think tanks and through nonprofits, etc. Yep. So, I think there's certainly a risk there.
Now, some Democrats are suggesting the classified documents found could have been planted. Watch this.
But I'm suspicious of the timing of it. I'm also aware of the fact that things can be planted on people. Things can be planted in places and then discovered conveniently. That may be what has occurred here. I'm not ruling that out, but I'm open in terms of the investigation. Needs to be investigated. Probably a special prosecutor should be appointed.
I heard you laughing, Christian, before we ran that soundbite. It sounded like a desperate conspiracy theory to me. What do you make of it?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that same congressman once suggested the island of Guam might tip over because there were too many military forces on it, and everyone thought it was a joke, and then thought, well, maybe he doesn't think that's a joke. It's interesting, the benefit of the doubt that they are willing to give Joe Biden. They're saying that this is completely different. What Trump did is completely different. There is actually a difference, but it's not the one they think. Donald Trump, as president, had plenary authority to declassify information. The president does not exist to serve the national security bureaucracy. The opposite is true. And Trump can assert and has asserted that simply by willing something to be unclassified, it is. It's an interesting legal question. As vice president, Biden had no such authority. It would be a bigger deal for him to remove classified information, especially if he did so willfully and store it in an unsecure, unauthorized place. So the Democrats are sort of right about the difference, but for the wrong reason and wrong consequence.
I'm glad you sorted that one out for us. Christian, thanks a lot. See you soon.